So a few weeks ago, I was invited to Plan B podcast to talk about climate change and my view as a climate skeptic. I'm very thankful, still am, that they invited me. However, I did miss the opportunity to make my statements about solar panels indisputable. So this video, I'm going to talk about why solar panels are inefficient. This is a supplementary video to that podcast.
Solar panels are inefficient form of energy, and here is why. They are inefficient because they uses more spaces, more labor, and more materials to produce the same amount of energy compared to fossil fuels. Firstly, renewables uses more materials to produce the same amount of energy. If you look at the lowest bar, is natural gas. Natural gas uses 1,148 kilograms of metals and minerals to produce the same megawatt of energy. If you look at the third bar from the top, is for solar PV. Solar PV uses 6,800 kilograms of metals and minerals to produce the same megawatt of energy. So solar PV uses almost five times more metals and minerals than natural gas to produce the same amount of energy. For environmentalists who want to save the earth, they should not advocate for solar PV because solar PV might more materials from the earth. It destroys more earth to produce the same amount of energy as compared to natural gas. And what's the source of this data? This data is from IEA. IEA stands for International Energy Report and is dated 2021. The QR code is there. You can scan it and you can see for yourself. It's just a screen grab. Secondly, solar panels uses more space to produce the same watts of energy. So we calculate this as watts per meter square. If you look at solar, it only produces 10 watts per meter square. If you look at natural gas, like shale gas, it produces 1,900 watts of energy per meter square. And what's the source of this data? The source of this data is Indian Port Energy Center, Bureau of Economics Geology, University of Texas. And thirdly, renewables uses more labor to produce the same amount of energy. So for the year 2020, fossil fuel job, no matter you're working at lower management, middle management, your laborer or whatever, on average, each job in the fossil fuel industry generate 9 times more electricity than each labor which is working in the renewable industry. And what's the source of this data? This data we take from BP Statistical Review of World Energy 2020, and we take the US Energy and Employment Report from 2020. So we divide the amount of energy produced by oil, gas and coal divided by the number of workers working in oil, gas and coal. Then we take the amount of energy generated by all renewables divided by the amount of workers working in renewables to get energy per labor, and we find that is 9.6 times more. A worker working in the fossil fuel energy generates 9.6 times more energy than a worker working in the renewables energy. Do you want labor productivity or not? If you do not want labor productivity, then you should advocate for a bigger renewable industry and which have lower labor productivity. But if you want higher labor productivity, then you should expand the efficient industry, which is the fossil fuel industry. So now we talk about Rahman's solar panels. We do not know what kind of solar panels Rahman has for his buildings, but it's very likely that he did not take into consideration the full cost over the whole life cycles of installing those solar panels versus the savings he might receive. So it will look something like this. Savings over 20 years, because we assume that the life cycle of a solar panels is roughly around 20 years, he has to add up his daily savings, or rather monthly savings, and he has to balance it with the full life cycle of the cost. That includes installation, maintenance, and disposable costs. And it's very likely he will not break even on his investment. I bet there's no way he will reinvest in solar panels 20 years later once the current ones are out of commission. So because we are dealing with lawyers here, we have to explain clearly our methodology, our disclaimer assumptions and how we derive this conclusion. So, in order to measure this accurately to see a tangible result, Rahman has to compare his electricity bills with another similar buildings with similar usage without solar panels over the course of 20 years. Then we can prove it, whether it's true or not. And we also must assume that Rahman will not spend money to prove his point on solar panels when they do not break even. Then we can conclude that Rahman will not recommit to another round of solar panels investment when this first batch of solar panels decommit. So coming back to solar panels, we know that solar panels uses 6 times more metals and minerals to produce the same megawatt of energy. Add that to more land needed required for solar panels to produce the same amount of energy compared to fossil fuels. Add that to more labor needed. And that will roughly translate to higher electricity costs the moment you add solar panels into our grid. So at per megawatt basis, whenever you measure anything uh, in this game, you measure at per megawatt basis. Solar panels will always lose to natural gas. So solar panels are not efficient and effective source of energy because they use more metals, minerals, more land, and more labor. Adding inefficient source of energy to our grid does nothing but adds to the cost of electricity. It's like paying a worker the same amount of wage when he only works for 1/3 of the time. Adding inefficiency to the grid discriminates and punishes efficient energy while promoting inefficient energy because you price them at the same level.